So it's minimalist and modernist architecture that inspires my work. I mainly look at like the surfaces that are used within the building, and kind of take them into account, work with them and take just influence from them, and look at how I can kind of layer materials together and kind of work with that, and that's how kind of what influences me. But it's all about ratio and proportions of materials, so I just take that into account when I'm looking at a site, and that's how I produce my work. So. I also use different materials to make new surfaces. So I combine fabric designs that have been taken, so it's all about the purity and the truth to the material. So I kind of use a fabric, take a photo of like a wall or a floor or anything. I don't do any editing to it, and then just print it out, see how it turns out naturally from the printers. And then I kind of transform it by soaking it in resin, put it into concrete, just kind of different processes of how I can create a new surface, and seeing how that would then look within interiors, architecture, and anything really, just kind of work around with it. Job wise, I think I want to work within a studio just like how we have at university now, so I can carry on experimenting and working within an environment where it promotes that and where we can just be as creative as possible. So mainly in companies. So companies that I'd like to work for are Hay Design, mainly Copenhagen, Scandinavian design houses, where they kind of, I see them as the future of design really. So I'd like to work within a company over there overseas and just kind of see how it would go, but definitely within a studio, and that I aimed within product design, either architectural cladding or just surface design, and focusing within materials, but definitely somewhere where I can still carry on experimenting. So during first year I did a lot more detailed drawings, but everything was still about overlapping and using different materials, and through university it's been really good that they've kind of promoted looking at different aspects of design. And during second year, that's when you kind of see how your personality really comes out through your design. You find your own pathway through the different briefs, and I think during second year it was mainly all about the different materials and the overlapping and compositions that was just so important within my work. But definitely everything was still really concept based, and that's how I think through my second year I really realised that I liked working with concepts and everything should have a meaning behind it. And so I tried to translate that through to my third year, and I've kind of just fully, from my dissertation project and this project now, everything's kind of going alongside with each other, and everything's just worked and flowed together, but everything's more concept based, everything has a meaning for it, but I've tried to influence a playful side within my fabric designs. Most people think my work kind of has a fine art kind of feel to it. But I don't intend for that, and it's the same with a lot of people say my work represents minimalism, and sort of through that, but I don't really intend for that to happen. It's just something that happens within the process, and it's not the intended outcome, but because it's more conceptual and everything has a context behind it and a meaning, and I think that's why people think it has more of a fine art and minimalistic kind of feel to it all. But I don't mind that at all. It's quite nice to kind of see that reflection and kind of get nice feedback where it does have the different kind of outcomes instead of just purely textile and material surface design. For my final major project, I've really been trying to advance more onto surface design, so mainly for tiles, worktop spaces, but then I've also been looking into building up a fabric collection that could also be applied to interiors, in even fashion, which I've kind of thought about, but it's not my intended outcome really. It's more the surface design aspect of kind of creating products as well. So yeah, but I'm trying to work with different materials, and every week at university I've kind of been working with different people in the workshops and kind of mixing it up a little bit, and working a lot with copper and steel and perspex as well. And then I've kind of been just recently been working a lot with resin and concrete, and trying to see different outcomes with different materials, and just seeing how the process happens. But a lot of my work is kind of accidental, and a lot of it doesn't, and it kind of turns out better when it is accidental. So it's nice to kind of see that, and just, you don't know what the outcomes are going to be with a lot of my work, which is quite exciting. So that's really nice. But I just try to be as experimental and like as playful, but stick to the concept as possible, really. So that's how it works.